Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Wherever you are in the world, welcome once again to another session of Living World of Darkness. This is a scene for the Mage venue. We open up directly tailing the events of a scene between Naomi and Violet. Although time seems to be continuing onward for her, for the rest of the world, things have slowed to a crawl. It's as if nothing is happening within the walls of the chantry that the ecstatics have claimed of their own. But in Naomi's head, she feels first the immobilization as all of her muscles tense up, her eyes roll into her head, and her vision, it begins to blur, though this time the way it normally does, as she feels smoke creeping out the corners of her sight. She sees perhaps Violet's concerned face only briefly as she notices things freeze and everything goes a misty, dark gray. The gray clears and she's falling forward. She falls forward, scraping the palms of her hands and her knees, and as she glances down, she sees before her pavement. There's vague yelling happening surrounding her, but it's hard to really pinpoint it yet, as she's simply met staring down at the concrete in her own skinned hands.
Is she actively descending? Is the concrete getting perceptibly closer?
Yes, it's basically after the fall in the blackness, it's as if she has tripped and skinned herself on the concrete.
Oh, sorry, right, yeah. Naomi will wince and pull herself to her feet, and I'm assuming she will find herself considerably more mobile than she had done in the previous days.
She is. She is not barely hanging on, but she does feel a distinct ache in her stomach, and she does feel as if some of the energy has been taken out of her. The yelling in the background still sounds like droning, but you can tell it's close, and as your vision begins to sharpen just a bit, you see a crowd of shoes behind fences that separate you on the sidewalk from this blur of anger.
And so she'll turn, and does that, as she turns her head around, can she find out which direction the yelling is coming from?
As she turns her head, the yelling seems to come from the left, from the right. The only safe spaces seem to be this sidewalk and what appears to be a building behind her.
Okay, so there's some mist in front of her and a building behind her. And the shouting's coming from left and right.
There's a street in front of her, but it does look very foggy. Very Silent Hill-ish if you played those games.
Okay. The bits of the street she can see, are they familiar in any way? Particularly whether they're sort of intimately familiar, or is it more of I've seen this street once or twice?
You've only seen it once, but the memory is one that probably has haunted Naomi since it occurred. You see a blur of a blue sign at the end of the sidewalk and something that looks like two leaves on the sign.
She'll walk up to the sign and try and brush the leaves off.
When you approach the sign, it sharpens just a bit. You really only have clear vision, maybe 2 feet in front of your face. As you go to brush the leaves, you realize it's part of the sign. And if you strain your eyes a bit, you can read the words Planned Parenthood.
And she will grip the sign and yeah, she'll start panting like she's had the wind knocked out of her, leaning on the sign for support.
All around her, through the haze and the droning of all of these voices overlapping, she just hears a few key phrases. Monster. Killer.
And she will turn around and look back at the building behind her. What does the building behind her look like? Is that the Chantry?
The building behind her is nondescript gray brick. The doors are open, but she doesn't quite recognize the inside of it yet.
She'll stare down the foggy street. And specifically, she's looking at the fog itself. Whether it's stationary or whether it's moving, or the hint of features in it at all. She is terrified of what that fog is and what it might mean she has to do.
As you look closely at the fog, some of the top of it seems to have taken more of a shape, although this rises high into the sky, larger than you've ever seen this thing before. You see the spined scales on the top, and you see a single slitted pupil staring down at you. The pupil itself may very well be the size of a small van.
And she will look up as tears start to fill her eyes, and she will shake her head. In this sequence, what is she wearing?
You know those paper hospital gowns that don't really cover anything, but they like to give you the illusion of being modest?
Yeah.
One of those. It's probably not even the right size.
Aren't you supposed to fucking help me or something? What the fuck?
The eye twitches into a bit of a glare, and you hear a rumbling growl shake the scenery.
And she'll spend quite a lot of time stood there. I say quite a lot of time in a timeless place. What does that even mean? Before hesitantly walking into the fog, she'll look back at keep looking back over her shoulder at the safe building.
As you walk away, you notice the people that were shouting appear more like automatons than genuine people, as if you aren't actually worth noticing beyond the spite and vitriol that they shout. As you leave, they don't even follow beyond turning their faces towards you, sneering and continuing to chant at you.
And yeah, she will look at them with their signs, and I'm assuming that some of them have signs. And she will sort of cover herself, like you say, it's a thin hostile gown. She will try and cover herself as much with her arms as possible, with them folded in front of her, specifically keeping the insides obviously towards herself.
As she continues to walk down this foggy street, she'll notice the further she goes, the more sort of gory things become. Not in the sense of dead bodies strewn about like a bad slasher fic, but as if there are thick, muscular membranes growing all over the buildings, all over the road. Mucous membranes create windows, and there is a large, pulsating, almost worm-like thing that seems to snake around the streets. As she closes and moves away from the safe building, this thing falls behind her, blocking her path back. It quivers and pulsates. The heartbeat is almost deafening.
What the fuck is... Wasn't like this.
As she continues to walk, the sights grow worse and worse until she's met hearing only the squish of her shoes on meat. But she sees in the distance the warehouse that she has been trying to make a home out of.
What is... It's... Okay. That's... And she starts muttering to herself, much as I'm doing, as she walks, and she's looking down at the fleshy floor, and all around the membranes. Does it look like anything in particular, or is it just fleshy, if that makes sense? Particularly, does it mean anything to Naomi?
It looks like a mix between exposed raw muscle tissue and very, very thick scar tissue. And of course, the required mucous membranes, so you can just barely see into the buildings if you want to push your face up to it.
Yeah, she will do. She will, as she goes up to them, she'll first try and she'll put her hand on it and grimace, and the first time she pushes her face up to the membrane, she will instantly recoil backwards and try to hold in holding the contents of her stomach as she retches, putting her face next to the mucous membrane.
It smells repugnant. If you'd like, please make me a stamina roll.
I will do. This will be the best fail.
Is 9.
And Naomi vomits profusely on the floor. She stays kind of stood up awkwardly, which means it goes down her front onto what actually, I mean, you said shoes, but what I'm assuming are her bare feet. Gets in her hair.
And she's left standing there in the vomit, though she can hear slightly the closer she gets the vague sound of singing. It sounds like Ginger's voice.
That she will, now her stomach is empty, try again to put her face up to the membrane to look at what's inside.
As she looks inside, she has to press her face into it, and it gives quite a bit. It's thin, and it feels as if it's made of the sort of thing that cataracts are made of. As she presses herself closely to it, she is filled with the smell and perhaps a bit of a taste that is utterly vile. It stinks of sweat and other old bodily fluids, but she can just barely see inside. She sees a human female figure. She's singing and playing the piano. The singing is halted quickly by another humanoid figure, a bit of purple on its head, and it quickly devolves into screaming between both of them, one of rage and one of terror.
And she'll try and push through, try and see if she can hear what they're screaming about, what this fight is.
As you push harder against the mucous membrane, you'll notice, especially around your nose, it begins to slowly sort of start to tear. The screaming is still vaguely indistinct. It's hard to hear through the flesh.
She'll continue trying to fight her way through it.
It gives almost easily. A hole opens up in the center, large enough for, if she wishes, she could probably just barely squeeze through.
Okay. And if she turns around, what is the worm that was following her doing?
The worm doesn't appear to be doing anything. It's always very, very close, and she can't quite get its heartbeat out of her head. She can see neither end of it, only the massive, veiny tube.
Okay. And if she looks in the direction of the warehouse that she is turning into a chantry, would, insofar as she can work out, her going into this place prevent her from going towards the chantry?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the chantry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then yes, then she will definitely push herself inside.
When she's inside, she can hear the argument getting clearer. She hears Violet's voice screaming at Ginger. But it seems surprisingly far away from how small the room seemed. She'll see also in another part of the room, staring, but not intervening at all, the image of Ken. He is wide-eyed and seemingly frozen, his head propped up on his hand.
Ken, what the fuck's going on? What the fuck are they fighting about? As she says this whilst walking in the direction of Violet and Ginger.
The figure of Ken doesn't even respond. He's shaking very slightly, but seems utterly frozen. If you'd like, you can roll me perception alertness.
Yep. Let's double check, because I can never remember this dice pool. Cool. 4 successes. Unless it's difficulty 8, at which point 2 successes.
You see Ken is frozen. He is shaking. There is blood coming from the corners of his mouth, and on the floor next to him, that his glassy eyes are locked on, appears to be his own tongue.
What the fuck? What the fuck, Ken?
He turns his head just barely to you, opens his mouth. The blood pours out, and he falls over. The blood is soon replaced with smoke, and you see once again something scaly in that smoke. The end of a tail, perhaps. You hear laughter. Deep, billowing, cruel laughter.
What the fuck did you bite out your own fucking tongue for? Ken, what the... And she will very, very hesitantly reach out and try and turn Ken over. Look, talk to me.
His lips are a dull blue, and the deoxygenated blood is still pooling out of his mouth. There is no semblance of him being alive right now beyond what was shaking.
No. What the fuck? No, like, what have you done? I didn't. And she will turn and look further into the chantry. Is there mist further into the chantry?
There is.
She will walk in. She will very as tenderly as she can. She will give Ken's hand a squeeze and close his eyes.
Sorry, what was that last part?
She will close Ken's eyes and give his hand a final squeeze before continuing onwards into what was supposed to be her safe little fortress. Looking for the screaming.
The screaming is escalated pretty much beyond words at this point. You may hear some insults thrown out by the voice that seems filled with rage. As you finally happen upon them, you will see Violet holding a handful of Ginger's hair and yanking her about like a rag doll.
What the fuck are you two doing? Stop! Violet, what the fuck? Let go!
Violet looks over at you and says, "No, I'm expressing my feelings to this fucking cunt." And she flings Ginger into the wall.
No, what? There's better ways of fucking doing it. Why are you angry at Ginger? What's she done to you?
So tired of always having to go after her. Why is it always about Ginger? And with each of those words between the pauses, you see her fists collide with the redhead's chest. Almost in the same manner as you taught her to beat up that hospital.
No. Violet, stop. And she will she's actually hitting Ginger. She's actually going to grab hold of Violet and try and pull Violet away from Ginger.
You're able to yank her off of her. Ginger recoils in terror and flees to her room. You hear a sickening squelch as she does. Violet is staring at you angrily. "I thought this was what you wanted. Wasn't this what you taught me to do?"
Not just fucking attack Ginger. You do it in different ways. Like, just. She's scared. She doesn't understand. And we go after her because we fucking want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. I didn't make you.
She glares and shoves you off of herself. "Fuck you, Naomi. Fuck you. You made me do that." And she is going to retreat as well to her room.
And Naomi is going to
It is entirely up to Naomi which one she follows.
Yeah. So, the frightened Ginger or the angry Violet? Damn. This is literally the plot of Sophie's Choice. What she's going to start doing, I can't imagine will have much effect, but she'll start by standing kind of in between their doors and saying, "Please, just both of you, just come out and we can fucking work this out."
Nobody exits their rooms. You hear sobbing from both of them, though. One filled with anger and confusion, the other of pure despair, terror, and betrayal. She will. This is really hard. She's going to go to Ginger, as Ginger is not the aggressor here. The where would normally be the door to Ginger's room appears to be, as the walls are still coated in muscle and scar tissue, it looks like a sphincter. It is not so tight as to not appear to be uninterable, but it's closed, you can assume, quivering. You can faintly see the red hair, and a gleam of metal if you peer through the small opening.
And she will put her hand on the sphincter near the pocket opening. Ginger, can I come in?
You just, through the crying, you just hear the non-committal. Yeah, sure.
And Naomi will try and pull the sphincter open.
She can do so. It has quite a bit of give, as most such things in the human body do.
Yeah.
As she is able to begin to wiggle her way through, she smells a bit of copper, blood, as it starts to tear. She can make her way through.
Yeah.
What she sees on the other side is Ginger once again dragging a large kitchen blade, this time down her thigh, deep enough that you can see the layers of skin peeling back.
What the fuck are you doing? Stop.
She continues. It comes out of her leg, only to enter at another point, striping herself with deep gashes. Naomi, why am I doing this?
How the fucking know? Please stop. And she'll run over and try and get the knife out of Ginger's hand.
Ginger cries out when you grab for the knife. If you'd like, make me a dex brawl roll.
That's 2.
Wait for dice stream to load. Oh, the suspense. She is so much stronger than you. She holds tight on the handle of the knife and she yells at you.
You don't need to do this, Ginger.
This is what you do when you're upset. And through her own brute strength, you feel her begin to turn the knife inward towards herself yet again.
I don't want to. It's not a good thing.
Then who wants this? Why is this happening? Why am I doing this, Naomi?
I don't know. I know I'll fuck you up. I don't want to fuck you up. I will fuck you up. But you keep coming back.
The knife pauses, its blade pressed right to the area between Ginger's collarbone, right where the two parts meet. She looks you in the eye as a bead of blood hits the blade. You're doing this?
And Naomi, through her tears, nods. I don't
Can
want.
you stop?
No.
The blade sinks deeper into the thin layer of flesh that houses her windpipe and various important veins. Then what can you do?
I I can control how I guess. I want you to stop, but you won't stop. I don't know how to make you stop. I don't think I can make you stop.
Pauses there, just barely nestled into a slit of her opened flesh. She stares at you, large, innocent eyes unblinking as they're full of tears. How can you help anyone?
I tried. It doesn't work. Try and look after you. Doesn't work. All I can do is choose how to fuck you up.
And when you say those words, Ginger looks at you. The knife has pulled from her throat, and she hands it to you, handle first. Then choose.
And Naomi looks solemnly at Ginger and says, I wanted you to get better. Picked you up from the street, and you said you wanted to find the others, and we found the others. Drove you mad, and you tried to kill yourself. I stopped, and then all I can do is make your pain stop. And she will give Ginger a hug. Something that she knows Ginger ultimately longs for.
She bursts into loud, racking sobs as she wraps her arms around you and squeezes tight.
And Naomi, still hugging Ginger, lowers the arm with the knife and whispers, I'm sorry, sweetie. I'll be with you now, and slits Ginger's throat.
You hear the sound of the knife cutting through her flesh as it glides over. Her throat opens up, exposing the veins, exposing her windpipe, and you hear the rattling chokes as she simultaneously bleeds out and chokes on her own blood.
Naomi stays holding Ginger tightly.
Her grip on you slowly loosens as her eyes go from that bright, vibrant blue to something dull and lifeless. You'll see, as she lays limp, if not for the bright red hair, she really does look a lot like you.
And Naomi will start crying wailing, holding her head in her hands over the body, holding the knife. And until final, she will she'll kiss Ginger on the forehead. Goodbye, sweetie. And then she will look up and towards the door. Is there anything else in the room with her?
Just the general things in Ginger's bedroom, had they been aged and battered for years. You see once again that smoky tail slither out through the membrane.
So Naomi will go through the membrane. And she'll head towards Violet's room.
She is met once again with another membrane, another what may have been a door in a more normal room. She hears the sobs of rage, but they've quieted now. It's really just heavy breathing and choking back tears.
Can I come in, Violet?
There's no response, although the choking noises stop only briefly.
And Naomi will open the sphincter and step through into the wonderful squishiness that is this room.
You see Violet lying on her back. Your heroin needles are scattered around her. Her arm has several fresh little holes in it. She looks at you through a half-aware expression.
You never wanted to do drugs. You were always good like that.
Her head lolls towards you. The corners of her mouth even turn up in a smile. Keeps the anger in check now. Why am I so angry, Naomi?
Because I showed you. Because I made you angry.
You were helping. Her eyes flutter.
All I can do is make it worse, but I can just change how I make it worse. I was trying to make you stronger and make you better. And I guess I fucked that up. But I can make you stronger and better right now.
How can you do that? She says, and then she looks weakly between the knife in your hand and the last heroin needle on the floor.
And Naomi will hand Violet the knife and sit next to her and lift her neck up and say, make it quick.
Violet holds weakly onto the knife, and you notice by now her hands are clammy and shaking. She can barely hold it steady. What do you want me to do?
And Naomi will gently take Violet's hand. She'll be like, need to be angry at me. fucking you up and making you do things you don't want to do. And now you can punish me for it. Please. Fucking please.
She will slowly start to raise into a sitting position. She will lay your hand flat on the concrete of the floor. And one by one, digit by digit, she will remove your fingers.
Naomi is screaming the whole time. But doing her best to keep her hand in place. Please don't make it hurt.
I thought you wanted me to be like you.
I want you to be better than me.
Then how does this end?
You can kill me, then at least the pain goes away. Then I don't have to be me anymore.
And what happens to me, the person you made a murderer?
Others will do better.
And Violet will, with her last reserves of strength, she will lunge at you. And she will plunge the knife into your throat. You feel every detail as it, almost in slow motion, slides through the skin and through the muscle. You feel the blood pouring out. It begins to fill your esophagus. It begins to fill your lungs. As everything goes blurry, it goes smoky again. You are left, once again, falling through blackness. This time, to the side of you, you see again that large slitted pupil surrounded by smoke. The smoky effigy of its lips curl upward. You see its sharp teeth bared in a snarling grin. What have we learned?
Naomi looks at it. As she falls, she just says, all I'll do is hurt things. But I can choose how.
Then that's the next question you must answer. How will you hurt? And you hear the snarl as the thing slithers past you into the oblivion below. The last thing you see, the flicking of the end of its smoke-like tail.
And Naomi plunges on downwards. And I'm assuming that's where we end our scene.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ST, for being absolutely wonderful and amazing and running this. And thank you, watchers, for watching. And goodbye.